Now, tell me about your accident when you were 22 years old.
Oh man, I fell, I was on a backpacking climbing trip and I fell 100 feet at 13,000 feet and had a significant climbing accident and broke my lower back at T11, T12. And from there, you know, I went to a rehab hospital. That was difficult.
Yeah.
Difficult part of my life, going through that whole accident. And, you know, it took a long time. We were 20 miles into the backcountry. We were far away from any kind of help, any sort of a hospitalization. So by the time I got to a trauma center, the Navy flew in a Navy helicopter and lowered a Navy medic. And they got us off the mountain and then down to a trauma center. I was in the hospital in 1982 for 3 months.
Really?
No, 7 months. Excuse me, 7 months,
okay.
not 3 months. 7 months. Nowadays it'd be about 3 months. Kaiser, Vallejo was where I rehabbed at. Oh, I learned to live my life out of a wheelchair. You know, all the personal care you have to do for yourself. You know, I was taught that you know, your arms become your legs. You know, you have to get strong. So I went through a lot of PT, and I really attribute my success in my life now to my really great rehabilitation experience at Kaiser Vallejo.
What is it that keeps you moving forward with this incredible positive attitude?
Man, it's just, you know, I think it's really having a passion for adventure sports. And, you know, I think we all need to find that passion after an illness or an accident, and now we have maybe a disability in our life. And, you know, you can turn that into very positiveness and being able again through modern technology. So, you know, it's a difficult thing. We all have our battles to face, and I love just, you know, now being able to climb the way I've climbed and ski and ride my bicycle, and you know, I've had a good life over the years. De Anza was a junior college in Cupertino, California, near Apple Computer back in those days. And De Anza, we had a great wheelchair athletic program. And then I also went to West Valley College and got my degree in park management, where I became a ranger in Yosemite National Park.
How did you overcome the reluctance of some people hiring you to become a ranger?
I became a ranger naturalist, interpreting the natural processes of the park to the public. You know, geology, bear management, wildlife management, and then of course rock climbing. People come from all over the world to see the cliffs of Yosemite.
What were some of your most memorable experiences about being a ranger?
Oh, just being around the public, and you know, the summer times in Yosemite, from people from all over the world coming to the parks. I enjoyed that aspect of it. And then my off time of kayaking, climbing, skiing in Yosemite was great memories for me.
Okay.
Being a paraplegic, I don't have any feeling in my legs. And what the rock chaps do is they protect my legs from any kind of abrasion from the rock. And I've incorporated the Swami belt into the rock chaps as part of my harness. And of course I have the super duper leg loops here. These typically leg loops are about 2 inches wide. Being a paraplegic, my legs have atrophied over the years, and the wider leg loops disperse the weight so I don't cut off the circulation.
Did you become involved in climbing again after your injury?
I met Mike Corbett. Mike Corbett had climbed El Capitan many times, more than anybody else in the world, back in 1989. And him and I developed adaptive climbing so I could actually get back on the rock and climb the largest unbroken granite cliff in North America, El Capitan.
Climbing El Capitan after 10 years was a revelation for me. Back on the Big Stone, I remember how much I loved it up there. But it's never easy. Better gear, better technique, and better strategy all help. But my muscles and joints were 10 years older, and the route we chose was seriously paraplegic unfriendly.
All right, see everybody at the top, hopefully. See ya.
The climb helped change the way the world looks at the disabled, and more importantly, it changed the way we believe in ourselves.
We'll just climb.
Since then, a lot has changed. Bold young athletes have come on the scene, new equipment developed, and new barriers broken. But one thing hasn't changed, my own crazy passion to climb big mountains. 10 years after my first El Cap climb, Mike Corbett and I came back for more. Older, but not wiser, once again we hit the mountain in the blistering heat of July.
Here's something that most people don't address effectively, which is something that everyone needs to hear about, which you address in your book. How does being in a wheelchair affect relationships?
Relationships with what?
With man and a woman?
Oh, I don't know. It doesn't really affect my relationships in any way. I mean, you know, I've been disabled now longer than I was able-bodied. I've been a wheelchair user for 37 years.
Oh, really?
And I was able-bodied for 22 years. So I don't know any. It's almost like I was born using a wheelchair.
Okay.
I don't know. I get along with lots of people. I have lots of friends. I have my wife. Have my business.
Okay.
It's all good.
How did your partnership with Mike Corbett develop?
Oh, we were bonded from, we lived and breathed that climb for 6 months, training, developing the equipment, and then finally executing the climb, and ended up our journey in the White House talking to President Bush about bone fishing. And in 1989, President Bush signed the Americans with Disabilities Act after my visit to the White House, so that was great.
What mountains have you climbed besides El Capitan?
Half Dome I mentioned earlier, and Mount Shasta, Mont Aiguille in France. So I've done some mountains over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other honors have you gotten?
Well, I got to light the Paralympic torch. I climbed an 80-foot rope and lit the Paralympic torch in Atlanta in 1997 for the Paralympics. Muhammad Ali lit the able-bodied torch, and I was able to do the torch for the Paralympics.
For you. You also met David Letterman and Tom Brokaw. Can you describe those meetings?
Yeah, Tom Brokaw, was the NBC news anchor for NBC National News out of New York, and after the climb, we met the president, then we came down to New York, had luncheon with Tom Brokaw and his staff. They covered our climb from the Today Show to the evening news, nightly for the 8 days. And we were on for like 56 minutes of national television, I believe, for that week. So that was huge. And then we climbed the other famous monolith in Yosemite, Half Dome, 2 years later. David Letterman, we weren't on his show, but we were in the green room and hung out with David Letterman when we saw Tom Brokaw.
Okay. You also met President Bill Clinton and the former First Lady Hillary Clinton. Can you tell me about that experience?
Yeah, that was with the whole, it wasn't as intimate as President George Bush, because the Oval Office visit for a half hour with the president, it was with Rittenhour. He was the Department of Interior Secretary. Jack Moorhead was the superintendent of Yosemite National Park. Mike Corbett was my climbing partner and myself. So the four of us were talking to President Bush in the Oval Office. The Clintons, I was with the U.S. Disabled Ski Team and also the able-bodied ski team. So there was a lot of us. They had a reception for us, speeches, luncheon, and then we met the Clintons. Each person got to shake their hand and get a picture.
What other notable people have you met?
Oh man, I've notable people.
Anybody that strikes your fancy?
Mario Andretti.
Really?
Maynard Ferguson. I don't know if people know.
I know who that is. Yeah.
Maynard Ferguson and Dizzy Gillespie. I was a trumpet player, so I've always
Really?
loved seeing those kind of the horn players. There's been a lot of people traveling over the years. The Queen of Norway and the King and Queen of Norway when we did. I was in the Paralympics in '94. Ski racing. So no, it's been a journey, and it's great to be here at the Abilities Expo in Chicago. I hope people can come down, and we're actually doing all the ability shows with Liberator Medical, and or most of them. I think we're not doing San Mateo this year, but we did LA, New York, Chicago. We're doing Houston,
You're
Dallas.
You're doing Dallas?
Dallas
Okay.
in December. So if you have an interest in coming out and trying adaptive climbing, it's kind of been my specialty over the years. We really, if you have the desire to climb, we can facilitate that and make your dreams come true.
Okay.
So come on down.
So we are here at the rock climbing wall with our one of our customers. His name's Mark Wellman. So we have some people climbing the rocking wall, and then we also offer some catheter supplies to them. We carry catheters, ostomy supplies, diabetic supplies, incontinence supplies. So we're just having a lot of fun, having people hang out, climb the wall, and having a lot of fun today.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Crystal.
Oh, you're welcome.
This is really cool. And
yes.
Mark is so impressive.
He is. It's an experience, and it's cool to see other people encouraged to try something new, that using their upper body strength to make it to the top. So it's encouraging to watch.
Yeah, I did it last year. I think I'm going to do it again this year.
Hey, you better get on there now.
Yeah.